everybody. I'd like to welcome you to what is now my 56th episode. I have a very special guest today, someone I've known virtually for many years. I'm going to read directly from what I curated from LinkedIn to introduce him. Combining his background as a graphic designer with a passion for horror, he transformed a small operation of custom t shirts into a globally recognized licensed merchandise brand. This is the founder, president, and CEO of Fright-Rags Incorporated. Welcome to the stage, Ben Scrivens. Big round of applause.
Wow, that was quite the intro. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you on. And as I said,
Yeah.
I met you virtually. And if I could pay you a compliment, not only do you have a flourishing business, but you really curate followers and have such an inclusive attitude. And you're an excellent ideator and just fun to kind of banter with online. Feel free to speak to that. But before we get into your presence online, etc., I want to go back. I think this is now over 20 years ago. I think you're where you grew up. Where is that
So
currently?
I'm in Rochester, New York. Yep, I've been born and raised here.
Okay, and then reading up on your history with horror, there's a seminal movie that I think catapulted you into your business today. You were exposed to a movie when you were very young, and similarly, I think it's the same movie that kind of motivated my excitement around horror. But tell me about your first dance with the horror genre.
Yeah, that was October 30th, 1981. I was 4 years old, and that movie was John Carpenter's Halloween. That was the Friday night movie, the NBC movie. It was its debut premiere on television. Obviously, the movie came out in '78, but yeah, we were at a friend's. Well, we had friends that are around the corner from us. We used to live down in the city, and they owned a
Yeah.
deli, and they had a living room in the back of the deli, and they lived above it. And we were just over there hanging out, and my brothers, I'm the youngest of four, so my brothers and my sister were hanging out with their kids, and I didn't have anybody my age to hang out with, and I was bored and I wanted to go home, and kind of tugging on my mom's shirt, like, hey, I want to go home, whatever. And she's like, go watch TV. And so I just kind of meandered over to the big console TV, and honestly remember just sitting, I'm not even kidding, like 15 inches from the TV, and this movie came on, and it must have been what, 8 o'clock, right? Not 8 or 9 o'clock, whenever that came on. It's funny because I remember the movie, like I remember it crystal clear in my head, to the point where, as you know, the television scenes that was obviously the first time that ever been seen because it was the first time on television. When I saw the movie and subsequent years later, and like renting it on beta and the VHS, whatever, I remember thinking, like, where are these scenes that I remember as a kid of Loomis in that like kind of conference room area? And it wasn't until 1996 that Halloween, I think it was HalloweenMovies.com, posted those images. A version came out that finally showed the television scenes. And I thought, I'm not crazy after all. So anyway, that was my first introduction to horror, 4 years old. Yep.
How great to see and any follower of the film knows that when it first aired, they had to take some of the more graphic, violent things out. So I think John Carpenter and Deborah Hill had to create, like you said, a scene with Donald Pleasance, giving some exposition and backstory to the
Mhm.
Michael Myers character. I think there's also a scene with Jamie Lee Curtis and PJ
Yes.
Souls.
And that's inside the Nightmare on Elm Street house.
Oh, I didn't know that. Nancy
Yeah.
Thompson's house.
Yes. That scene is actually filmed inside the actual house for the night from Nightmare on Elm Street, which is
Yeah.
funny. But the
Well,
interesting, so yeah, they had to film those scenes not only to take out the graphic content, which is
yeah.
funny, 'cause there's really no graphic content, but they
Right.
also wanted to link it to the brother sister storyline because that's when Halloween 2 came out, and John Carpenter had come in to film
Oh.
scenes for Halloween 2 to make it more graphic, actually. So I believe, he shot those scenes. That's why Jamie Lee Curtis has a towel on her head. She was her bathrobe. Her hair was cut short because she was wearing a wig in Halloween too.
That's right. I remember this. Well, that makes a lot of sense for that continuity. I know he kind of reluctantly did Halloween 2, and I think that whole backstory with the sister brother theme wasn't something he was very excited about.
No, and he said that was the only way he could figure out how to do a sequel. He was just like, I'll just make him brother and sister, you know? So and it
Excellent.
never worked. In my mind, it never worked. Like I love those movies. Don't get me wrong; they're my favorite.
Yes.
I always, because in my head, I was trying to put like a square peg in a round hole. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. They don't mention that in the first film. Like, and then you find out years later, of course, it didn't make sense. But as a kid, you think they have it all figured out, you know,
Right.
that it's pre-written somehow. But
I could dissect this with you for hours,
right, I
but
know,
I want to
I
stick to
know.
your story first. So that motivated you. So fast forward
Mhm.
several years, it's Labor Day 2003, and you're generating what is your first go or run of t-shirts. What did those look like, and what inspired that?
As you kind of mentioned in the intro, I'm a graphic designer. That's what I went to school for, and at the time, so this is 2003, I was living with my girlfriend. We were in an apartment. We weren't married yet. We didn't have any kids. We didn't have really any responsibilities. We were just working, right? So I had a lot of free time and I spent a lot of time online and, way before Facebook and MySpace and all those things. I was on a lot
Yeah.
of horror forums, but I would spend time on these like replica forums where people were making like Freddy gloves and Jason masks and Michael Myers masks. I mean, I always wanted a Captain Kirk mask, because it was, Michael Myers. That was like the first thing I ever searched for on web crawler when I was on the internet for the first time, like 95 was Captain Kirk 75 mask. Like it's really, that was how ingrained it was.
Uh,
I was a part of these forums, Night Owl forums. I don't know if you ever remember those, but it was run by a guy named Justin Mabry. And he and I were the same age, and he was the best at making Michael Myers masks. I mean, he made other types of masks too, but he just made the best replicas. And so he and I became really good friends, and we would talk on the phone for hours and hours. It inspired me to do something on my own. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't make masks. I was in an apartment. I mean, I never had any experience sculpting. I'd done it like once or twice, but I did like being creative. I just didn't think there was no way I was going to be like him. So what could I do? And I started coming up with these different designs, and I realized that I've always been into weird shirts, like just odd shirts. And I was very particular about my taste. And I was always into horror movies, but I never really had a horror shirt. I had an Anchor Bay Halloween shirt that I got in like the late 90s. But that was it. So I thought, oh, it'd be cool maybe to design something. And I looked online and yeah, I'd seen Rotten Cotton. That was really
mhm.
only other like game in town. And I was like, I mean, those were fine, but they weren't my style. I wanted to do something different. This was around the time of the what would Jesus do kind of craze, you know? So I thought, oh, what would Jason do? And I'm like, oh, we'll put a hockey mask instead of the J. And that's like, it speaks to my humor and it speaks to my love for horror. And if anybody was a fan, they would see it and immediately just know what it meant. And that really sparked something. And I designed it, and then I had this one idea of just doing the mask on a shirt, the Jason mask, and then I had this one very simple Michael Myers looking one that says "Trick or Treat" on it. Very clever. But I showed Justin, and he's like, "These look cool. You should post them on my forum." And I didn't want to like spam his forum with my ideas. He sort of like sanctioned it. He was like, I'll put them up there and show people. And people started responding really positively. And it's the first time that I had made something or designed something that people were like really reacting in a way where like, oh, I'd buy that, whatever. And I thought maybe I should do this. Like maybe I should like make the shirts and actually sell them. And I really had no idea what I was doing. I built the site on my own on HTML, came up with the name, cheesy name, Fright-Rags. Okay, I'll buy the domain. And my girlfriend, now my wife, she's like, what are you doing? Like I just spent $600 on t-shirts like we don't have. Like we were engaged, we were trying to save it for a wedding, and she's like, what are you spending this money we don't have on? I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna sell a couple t-shirts. Like
Yes.
I just jumped into the pool. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to swim. And that's really the beginning. And Justin went on to start Trick or Treat Studios, and he went on to
Beautiful.
sculpt the Michael Myers mask from Halloween 2018 and all the new ones. So I mean, this guy has gone on to do great things, and he's still a good friend of mine.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, and I know you've had many creative partnerings over the years, and I'm just curious. I'll give an example. I'm wearing one of Fright-Rags creations, and this is a recreation of a scene from Poltergeist. What goes into your attempt to not only license images, but also to design the unique illustrations that I find so captivating on these shirts?
It's a process. I mean, so the licensing part is one thing where we
Uh-huh.
have to talk to studios and people who own the movies. I mean, sometimes it's a complete like a studio, like the one you're wearing with Poltergeist.
Uh-huh.
MGM owns the rights to Poltergeist,
Sure.
at least for in terms of apparel. So you have to go to MGM directly. There's sometimes where movies are owned by a company or studio, but they use a broker to handle the licensing. So they just want someone else to deal with it.
I
So
see.
they're sort of a middleman, and then we have to go to them. And then there's other times when it's literally like a person that you talk to and they own the movie. Each scenario is different. You know, when it comes to a studio, they're a little bit more restrictive. Many times you are not allowed the use of likenesses in the movie unless it's an approved image. And if it's an approved image, an asset that they give you, you can't do much to that asset other than maybe change the coloring or add some effects to it. But you can't redraw it because that becomes a different piece. And then you have to go to the actor to get approval, and sometimes that's not easy, and sometimes it becomes a much longer process. And when you get a license, you're getting a license for usually 2 years.
Oh,
So you
wow.
have 2 years to earn out the money you spent up front because you have to give them an advance against royalties.
Oh my
And,
God.
you got to start developing and producing and selling. I mean, if you don't earn out, the studio doesn't care because you gave them money up front, but you as a company want to earn out, so you're only just paying royalties after you earn out of the advance. There's sort of a ticking, clock going when you start. But then when it comes to actually making the designs, we work with a lot of great designers. So, I mean, where I did it originally, way back in the day, I don't do the design myself anymore. We have a couple designers that are staff designers, and then we have a couple others that are really exclusive to us. They're freelance, but we have deals with them that they only work with us in terms of horror apparel. So
Okay.
there's a lot of horror sites out there or horror apparel sites out there, and we tend to all use the same artists at times, and there's nothing wrong with that. If the artists are getting work, that's great, and we all like these artists, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a few people that we say like this helps define the Fright Rags look. Justin Osborne, Kyle Crawford, like these guys are really, and now an artist we use, Zach Brown, like these guys are like I feel like I'm more in tune with them in terms of what they do as art. Like I love their art so much,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like every time we have an idea or something, we go to them and they're gonna nail it. Or they're coming up with the ideas. Kyle's constantly coming up with amazing ideas, and it's like cool. Like it's nice to have somebody to just work on that. And of course, if we have ideas internally and we're like, hey, if I have an idea, sometimes it was funny. I was just looking through something the other day and I found a sketch for the ET design that Justin Osborne did for us. And
Nice.
because I remember having this idea because we couldn't use likenesses, we couldn't use Henry Thomas. So I wanted him looking behind and looking at the kids on the bike below him, but then ET was up front. So that does work in a very collaborative way. But a lot of times I want to see what the artist has to bring to the table because we're working with them because they have a specific skill. I want to see their vision. I mean, again, it's very collaborative. So there's a lot of times where I'll be like, "Oh, I had this idea," or many times they'll be like, "Oh, I have this idea. Let's see what that looks like." And again, it has to work within the limitations that we have.
Well, and speaking of limitations, just by merit of my wearing this, and you talked about celebrity likenesses, etc. So I take it that we or you weren't able to get Joe Beth Williams permission to be shown on this T-shirt. Is that correct? Or Go ahead.
It is. And to be fair, it's not like we went to her and
Uh,
she declined. It's
yeah.
not like that at all. I don't have any connection with her. I probably could have found out through friends of mine. I probably could have made some connection and maybe possibly had her okay it. And then we would have given that to the studio. For example, when we do our Halloween 3 shirts with Universal Studios, we were not allowed to use Tom Atkins, but I'm friends with Tom, so I just shot him an email and said, "Hey Tom, are you cool with this?" He's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And I sent that email to Universal, and now they're okay with it because the studios, they're honestly their biggest fear is getting sued. They just don't
Sure.
want to get sued.
Yeah.
So I knew Tom didn't care, but I needed to prove to the studio that Tom wasn't going to sue them, and then they're just like, "Okay, it's fine, do whatever you want to do because you worked out a side deal. Now it's on you if something happened."
Yeah.
And I get that, but sometimes it's very frustrating because I used to think that once you got a license, you were good to go. And
Yeah.
it's almost like, I hate saying this, but it's almost worse when you have the license sometimes. But I will say it presents a very creative opportunity
Sure.
to think outside of what you would normally do. And so that's really honestly been a benefit for us because then you start thinking, like one of our most successful shirts is one we called Chum Bucket, and it was for Jaws. And when we got the rights through Universal, we're like, okay, what are you going to do? Because we can only show the shark. We can't show anybody's face. And I distinctly remember sitting around with a couple members of my team, and we're like, what are we going to do? And I thought, oh, you know what would be cool is that scene where Roy Scheider is
Mhm.
slinging the chum, and he
Yes.
turns, and Bruce, the shark, comes out of the water. What if we did the reverse, and you're
Yeah.
looking out of Bruce's mouth, and then you see, Brody turning around, and when he's turned around, you don't see his face. So the idea was also kind of cool because the blackness of the mouth fit the shirt, so you could frame it right on the shirt. And so I sketched it. I mean, really bad sketch. I did on this piece of paper, and I took a picture of my phone and I sent it to Justin Osborne. I said, "This is kind of the idea I was thinking." He nailed it. I mean, he just made it so much better. And it's that was 10 years ago and it's still selling well.
Well, and that's amazing. And what I appreciate about what Fright-Rags does is just not only the diversity of thought and if you have a boundary, how do you work around it, but the diversity of products. So you said that Jaws t-shirt, kind of from the perspective of the shark, is a big seller. Is there anything beyond your t-shirts or something within your product mix that is perhaps a surprise to you that it still sells well or continues to sell?
I guess we're a little surprised at first, but are just happy that they are selling well. I mean, trading cards do really good for us, and that I understand because generally we offer autographs in our trading cards, so people have a collective. There's a collectability aspect to it, and they can resell some things, or there's a
I see.
value. There's like a long-term value if you're collecting the autograph and thing. That so I understand it. Although I'm super pleased that people like those trading cards because as a kid, there's things I would have loved to have. I wasn't a sports kid, so I didn't collect baseball cards, but I liked the idea of baseball cards. I
Hmm.
wanted movie cards, and even though there were movie cards back in the day, I
Sure.
wanted Halloween cards. I wanted Evil Dead
Sure.
cards. Drinkware does good. Our mugs or our pint glasses, those types of things do well. And we've been doing some action figures as well that have been selling well. So really pleased about that. And then we do have a couple other things coming up, which I'm hoping do well this year. But I like expanding into areas that spark kind of a love for me. I mean, that's how it starts. It's like, hey, what would I want? And
Yeah.
then go from there.
Well, and I think that's a great approach considering what you as a devout horror fan would consider fun. You mentioned the mugs, and I've seen the collection of drinkware that kind of advertises like a business within the movie universe, etc. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
fun. You put the logo on the mugs, etc. You mentioned Tom earlier, Tom Atkins from Halloween 3. Who else or what other celebrities have you engaged with, maybe to the point where you were able to get permission to use their license? Anybody that you recall or
Um, I've, I mean, I'm trying to think of people specifically with likeness wise, but like I've been very fortunate to have met and befriend a lot of
Mm.
people that I grew up watching. I mean, as we've talked about, Halloween's my favorite movie of all time. And I've gotten to be really good friends with PJ Souls. Like
Nice.
she's a really dear friend of mine. We have interacted with Jamie Lee Curtis a few times. I got to meet her on the set of Halloween Kills, but then I was put in touch by one of the producers, friends of mine. He put me in touch with her to donate some things for a charity, but then she was interested in our shirts. And we sent her a bunch of shirts for Halloween Kills, and then she reached out to me again for Halloween Ends, and we kind of had a cool back and forth a few times. It was pretty wild. I mean, she sent me a picture of her and Melanie Griffith and Demi Moore and Paris Jackson and a few other people in our shirts, and I was
I
like, oh
love
my God.
that.
And then she posted it on Instagram, and I was like, this is crazy. You know, like Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser has become a really
Yes.
like true close friend of mine where we'll talk on the phone for hours. And it's funny because situations like that, it's interesting because it goes beyond the movies, even though you can talk about the movies and it's not awkward, it's not weird. I'm still a fan, obviously, you know, but it's weird because then it becomes like, oh no, that's my friend.
Mhm.
Oh, she or he happened to be in this film that I love and watch all the time. So it's an interesting dichotomy, but I feel very lucky that I've been able to have those relationships, and they're very organic. It wasn't anything like shoehorned together; it just kind of
Right.
happened, which is cool.
Well, I admire that greatly. I'm so jealous. But speaking of product, I am curious to ask you, is there anything you spoke about your initial design of what would Jason do? From there all the way up to present, is there a t-shirt or a design that you hold close to your heart? Maybe it's that one, or is there something that immediately comes to mind as something you really favor?
What I typically wear and what
Uh-huh.
we release sometimes don't match up. Like, for example, I love Justin Osborne's artwork. It is some
Uh-huh.
of my favorite work that we've ever been able to release as the stuff that we get from him.
Uh-huh.
The weird thing is I generally don't wear a lot of his t-shirts, and it's not because I don't like it. It's
Uh-huh.
because it's not my personal aesthetic, whereas
Understood.
I gravitate toward Kyle's work because it's more in line like the very, very distressed looking stuff, the stuff
Mm.
that looks old and worn out. When I think of what's in my closet, which rotates quite a bit, I think of the things that I gravitate toward, and it's funny because I always look at everything from a graphic designer's point of view and what I think is good, right? Because at the end of the day, obviously all the artwork has to get approved by the studios, but I also have to make sure I feel like it's right for us as a brand, right? And that encompasses a lot of different things. And obviously it has to go through me, but I'm also understanding that my personal taste is different from just design in general, right? Like
Sure.
I might like this one thing because that's what I want to wear, but I also recognize that all this stuff is really good, right? If that makes sense. To get to your point, like there's a lot of, I mean, it's like I always say it's like picking one of your kids, right? It's like we've done thousands of t-shirts over the years. And yes, some I like better than the others, of course, it goes back to the movie, you know, like I love Halloween. So like the piece that Justin did for us a few years ago, I mean, oh gosh, probably 10 years ago now that I have as like a poster hanging up in my movie room. Like I love that classic Michael with the knife and Jamie, you know, it's Laurie looking up. That to me just feels like a movie poster, you know?
Nice.
But when I wear a shirt, like there's one shirt I actually just retired because it was getting a little ratty. I'm gonna have to print myself a new one. Like Joe who works for us, he did a design for a VHS cover of Night of the Living Dead that
Neat.
came out on Kickstarter with a book that was about the bootleg versions.
Uh-huh.
And I love that shirt. It was a green shirt. It was just a cool, like, couple pictures of the cast, but it looked like distressed and it had like the half toning on it, like it was printed poorly, you know? And I love that shirt. So I wore that like all the time.
I gravitate to the designs or ideas where you kind of do a mashup
Mm,
of different IP or different formats, if you will. You said VHS. In
mhm.
a moment, I'm going to show you a parade of some of the shirts I own from Fright-Rags, and we can have you speak to those as well. Yeah, I tend to go for the mashup variety, so
Yeah,
we can speak to that
sure.
a little bit. Is there anything on the horizon for Fright-Rags that you can speak to now that isn't secret that a customer can look forward to?
This is sort of secret, but I'm going to mention it anyway.
Oh, please
Yeah,
do. It's
a little bit of a scoop.
exclusive.
Yeah. But it's something I'm really looking forward to and really proud of is we're releasing a trading card game in the summer.
Fun.
And it is so I'm not like a big gamer type person. Like I like video games and board games and stuff, but I'm not a huge gamer. And when it comes to games, we've always talked about internally that we wanted to have a game that you didn't have to spend 3 hours learning and watch an hour long
Right.
YouTube video and then forget all the rules after. And I know some people like that, and I'm not dissing anybody. But for
Right.
me, I just wanted a game that I could learn real quickly and play. And we've put out a couple board games with our partners over the last couple of years. Like it would be nice to have a game where you could play against somebody in like a card game type of way, and
Okay.
have it be like a versus type of situation. And
Oh,
so we worked
fun.
with a game designer that we knew from the Thanksgiving game we did a couple of years ago, a board game,
Uh-huh.
and he came up with this really cool idea that we worked on together. This basic engine of, okay, you're going to have a versus. So, for example, Halloween, you've got Michael versus Laurie,
Right.
and it's a dice game with cards. So you got to roll a dice to see what to do attacks and defenses, and you have health. And then the cool thing is though, if I come to your house and I have my Halloween game and you've got the Hellraiser game, we
Neat.
can play that against each other. So if you want to be Pinhead and I want to be Laurie, we can do that. It's really awesome. Like they're sold individually, but
Uh-huh.
they come in VHS boxes. You slide it out. There's two decks of cards and there's, a few die. And we just finished designing them. We're getting prototypes made right now. They're all approved. And we've got six of them coming out this summer. And I honestly, and I'm not trying to be biased, but it's like this is something if I saw it in the stores, I'd be like, I need to have these because not only do they look cool, but like playing them against each other, I want to play Art the Clown versus, Tom Atkins from Creepshow. Like you can do that.
And mark my words, this will probably inspire some crossover motion pictures because I
Oh,
anticipate this will be very popular. Watch, somewhere in the future here, we're gonna see a crossover movie that was inspired by these
we'll
games you're
see. We'll
developing.
see. But I like the idea because, like, as horror fans, we always talk about, oh, who would win, Freddy versus Jason or, Michael versus this. And
Right.
you can do that. And it only takes like 15 minutes to play. And then you can just play again and you can just play again. So I feel like if I like it, I think a lot of people will.
Well, that's great. Well, you've heard it here first on
Yes.
Netflix and Phil. The scoop. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned Freddy versus Jason. I kind of want to go down this path. Today is when we're recording this. This is Oscar Sunday. And I wanted to kind of open up. Is there anything, maybe it's in the horror genre, or is there any sort of film that runs a close second that's something that holds a space in your heart, if you will?
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, I always have like my top 5 to 10 movies, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
and they all kind of rotate positions based on the day, you
Uh-huh.
know? And many of those happen to be movies that are like very nostalgic for me, as I think we all get for the
Sure.
movies that we really love, right? So just to give you an example, like, I mean, you can see behind me, but like I have a Sleepaway Camp 2 poster. I love that movie so much. It is everything I want in a horror movie. And the other thing I like about it is it's like 82 minutes, and like 4 of those minutes is flashbacks to the beginning of that particular film, which I think is hilarious. Like, it's just,
Yes.
it's, it is like, in some ways, the perfect movie for me. Like, it's like, those 5 movies to get to know me, like, that's on the list, right?
Uh,
Um, but other days I'll say, like, Silver Bullet or,
nice.
Friday the 13th Part 3, which is my favorite Friday movie. As much as I love the entire series, that is my favorite. But again, they're linked to memories that I have. Lady in White's another one that's
Oh, wow.
lesser known, but I love that movie.
Well, not lesser known to me. Well, you first mentioned Friday the 13th, Part 3, which is probably my favorite in the series. Like 2, 3, and 4. and Seven.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
100%.
I find very fun. And then you mentioned the Lady in White, which, yeah, maybe not many are aware of. Why is that a fave of yours?
So that movie was made 45 minutes away from where I live. And I saw it when I was, I think in sixth grade.
Okay.
We was, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, they wheeled in the TV and it was like right before like Thanksgiving break, and they're like, we're just gonna watch a movie. And they said
Sure.
this was made here in Rochester or near Rochester, it's in Lyons. I didn't know any, and I loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the music. I just fell in love with this movie, and I honestly, for the longest time, didn't think anybody else knew about this movie. I thought it was like a local film type of thing. Catherine Hellman's in it, and
Mhm.
Lucas Haas, and Jason Preston, and everything. But and then I would hear people saying, "Oh no, I watched it on HBO growing up," and all
Right.
these things. So the director, writer, director Frank LaLoggia became a good friend of mine over the years. He
Nice.
moved to Italy in early 2000s, and I actually bought off of him. Actually, I have something I need to show you.
I
But
can't wait.
um, I because you know this movie, right?
Yes,
So
I do know this
I'm very. So it's nice to talk to somebody that knows this movie.
movie.
I bought his original 35 millimeter print that he made from of Lady in White and of Fear No Evil, because that was another movie he made.
Excellent.
But Lady in White, I have his original working print of it.
Amazing.
But I also have something else I literally just acquired a couple months ago. I want to show you because it's right here, and I didn't even
Okay.
think about this, so I want to show you. It's right.
Take your time. Take your
So
time.
this is very special. This is everything Lady in White. This is
You're
not
kidding
only the
me.
script, but this is all of the actors like deals, all of the
You're
shooting. Oh,
kidding.
this is 600 pages.
Oh my gosh.
This is what Frank used on the set every day making that movie. So like I said, it's a script, it's a shooting schedule, it's the cast list, their addresses and their like social security numbers, which is crazy. Um, Production meeting notes, shooting schedule, it's everything.
This is amazing. Well, I would call that the Bible of the Lady in White.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
I would describe it as a just a ghost story, very enchanting and very atmospheric, as you said. I think they not only uh, have it take place during Halloween, but
Mhm.
Christmas as well.
Yep, yep.
Uh, well done. When did it come out?
88, 1988.
Yeah, and I probably was introduced to it. I was introduced to it on home video. I don't know that I saw it in theaters.
It's a family movie. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's not outright horror, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's fun.
mhm.
It's a homey type of movie. So
Yeah,
I promised a parade of t-shirts,
yes.
so hopefully Sahara will remain quiet during this. I'm gonna unveil some shirts and stream of consciousness. You tell me
Okay,
what it inspires you to talk about, whatever comes to
sure.
mind.
I love it.
So this is just a fraction of the Fright-Rags t-shirts I own. Hopefully you can see.
Ah, the Jaws TV design.
Yes.
These are some of my favorite shirts.
Mhm.
Um, the TV design ones. So I love that one.
I don't know why, but I you spoke about the one with the point of view with from the shark, which I think is amazing with Roy Scheider throwing
Yep,
the chum. But I like you, I kind of like that distress nostalgia vibe too, and
yep.
so I have to give a shout out to my aunt who bought that for
Oh,
me.
that's
So,
awesome.
all right, next one up. Different film, Sahara. I know you want to participate.
That's a Justin Osborne design, and I love that movie. Honestly,
Yeah.
in theaters was so
Oh,
great, and yeah, I love that shirt. Oh yeah, that was that just brings back. I'll be honest, it brings back really not great memories.
really? Why?
Uh,
If you don't mind my
no,
asking.
I don't mind. I don't mind it at all. With Halloween 2018 and Kills and Ends, we were very fortunate that we had the license for all three movies, and we
Yeah.
were pretty much the only company that did, right? And we wanted to make sure we got those shirts out prior to the movie's release because people want to wear the shirt to the movie. So we said, okay, if it's coming out mid-October, we need to do basically a Labor Day release,
Oh
do
wow.
a pre-order, then print, and then release, and then get people their shirts, right? And that worked out pretty good for Halloween 2018. We had actually gotten the script months in advance, which was wild. We got a bunch of images. We were able to get Jamie Lee Curtis to okay her likeness and everything. Everything
Right.
worked out good. Halloween Kills, it got to be a little bit tighter of a squeeze because we were waiting on the studio. And there was like four different studios that have to okay the stuff, but we were waiting on assets. And we just got it out under the nick of time. And then Halloween Ends comes around, and that was a nightmare with the studios trying to
Oh,
get any assets. And they were like, well, because we're like, could you just give us something to go by? They wouldn't even tell us what the movie was about. Like, they were like, well, it's different. Okay, that's not, we can't make a shirt on it's different. We need images. We need to, like, they were being so it got to the point where I was literally on the phone going, you need to give us images now. We need them now, not yesterday, today. We need them now so we can, because we need to be able to produce something. I almost at this point, I don't even care. I just need to see images from the movie so we can give them to our artists so we can make designs so that you can approve them so that we can get them out. It was like, it was one of the worst stressful experiences because the thing is, if you don't do it, then they come out late. Then no one can, then people can't wear the shirt to the film. It's like it's not me trying to be like have an ego about it. It's like
yeah.
literally this is the time that things need to get done. And a lot of these studios don't really take into consideration of that type of thing.
Right.
Unless it was like a Funko Pop they needed to get out in time, that's a different
Yeah.
story because that company's huge and they can carry some weight. But like with us, it's not the same case. And I get that. But like I'm just trying to get people to realize like you need to like just give us something. And I'm glad we got it because the thing about Halloween Ends is it followed the same pattern as the first two, where we released it, we did really well, really well. And then with 2018 and Kills, when the movie came out, there was another really big bump in sales. When Halloween Ends came out, it died out because people didn't like the movie
Right.
and it sales just fell off a cliff. And that's the other thing. Like we got to be able to earn money on this stuff. And if the
Yeah.
movie isn't good, we're screwed. Now we're left just sitting there going, oh, well, we couldn't capitalize on this and we've already spent money on the license. So anyway, I liked that movie and I love that design and that shirt. It's just it brings back it's a little PTSD for me.
I understand. I'm sorry I opened up a sore
Oh
spot,
no, not at all. I don't
uh,
mind talking about it. It's totally fine. It's all
and
part of the
and
deal.
this is probably a whole nother episode, but I think with time people will grow to appreciate
Agreed.
Halloween Ends. I have opinions about it, but I did get something in the mail from your team just a day or so ago. So we're gonna do a live unboxing of it. I don't know if you've
Awesome.
ever been privy to something like this before.
No, but I love this. I'm
Uh,
excited.
and of course, when I unveil it, you can tell me your thoughts. All right. Comes with the trademark. Oh, this is fun. This is speaking of team. Here they are.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh, and I love, speaking of comfort horror films, it appears, now correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing sunglasses in the vein of They Live.
Oh yeah, they're exact replicas. We got screen used glasses, then we had them laser scanned and recreated.
Love that. Again, that's another one that I just put on in the background when I
Oh
just
yeah.
want to be nostalgic, if you will.
Hmm.
Trading cards, as you spoke to
Yeah.
before. And I have, now this one you're going to have to educate me on, a unique sticker.
So that is our Phantom. That's our if you
Okay.
ever look at our logo, the Fright-Rags logo, in the
Yeah.
middle is a little guy we call the Phantom with an F, right? And so that's
Love
a little
that.
mascot. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So here's the unveiling. I would say maybe this is probably one where you ideated for a time and came up with what I think is a very fun design. But tell me about this one.
Ah. Yeah, so we had Austin Pardun is a great like vintage Halloween artist, and we wanted to do, I think it was Chris on our team that came up with the original idea
Uh-huh.
to do like this cool like party design for Halloween. And then we had Austin work on it, and then Kyle kind of art directed it. So Austin kind of worked with Kyle to like Austin's original idea was good, but then Kyle and us, we just kind of worked on it, and Kyle made some edits and stuff. So I do love that design. It's fun. Again, I like all the Easter eggs in it, you know? Um,
Well, and initially I see kind of allusions to Michael Myers as a boy
mhm.
and the scene where he kills PJ Soul's boyfriend. And then you see the witch, which I think maybe is a nod to Halloween 3. I don't know.
It's just a vintage Halloween element, you
Yeah,
know?
love it. It's so fun and eclectic. Well, Ben, we're about at time. I want to thank you again for sharing your story about your business and talking horror films with you has been so much fun. If your schedule allows, I would love to bring you on and maybe we can discuss anything. How can one of my viewers find you or your business online?
Well, just go to www.frightrags.com. It's fright-rags.com. And then we're active on, well, mostly Instagram and X and Facebook. So, and that's, on Instagram, it's at Fright-Rags. That's probably where we are the most. We're
Okay.
on TikTok a little bit, same handle.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much. Look to Fright
Thank
Rags
you.
for your licensed horror merchandise t-shirts. And this has been Netflix and Phil.
Thanks.
Stay on.
Appreciate
Don't go anywhere, Ben. All right.
it.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you, Sahara, very much. Bye.